Coming up on Valley News Live, a year later, law enforcement and business owners reflect on the Fargo riots. And more people may be spending time on the water this holiday weekend. We share some tips. Plus, House Democrats say there will be a congressional inquiry of the January 6th riot at the Capitol. Valley News Live at 10 is straight ahead.
When this thing started to turn into a situation where we started to have businesses being vandalized, people being hurt, it was definitely like, what's going on?
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I am Nashay Taylor. Local law enforcement and business owners are reflecting tonight on the one-year anniversary of a peaceful protest turned riot in downtown Fargo. The riot left several storefronts and restaurants badly damaged and several officers and community members with physical and psychological injuries. Valley News Team's crime and safety reporter Bailey Hurley spoke to those in the metro this week who say the May 30th is a day they will never forget.
What started as a peaceful protest on May 30th, 2020, with hundreds gathering in downtown Fargo to honor the life of George Floyd, ended with a citywide curfew and police deploying tear gas and rubber bullets on rioters and looters.
It was a difficult time. There were a lot of emotions, and crowds are sometimes a pretty dangerous combination.
Law enforcement from across the valley came to assist the Fargo Police Department that day, including several officers from Grand Forks, who just 3 days earlier had lost a fellow brother in blue, 29-year-old Cody Holty.
It was a difficult time to say the least, but as Cody did that day, when another agency calls for help, we're going to respond.
Cass County Sheriff Jesse Johnner says 47 extra officers were called in that day from his agency.
I was very happy with how our staff responded that day. I mean, our goal was to make sure that we could maintain public safety. And I think if we hadn't responded the way that we had, that more people may have been hurt and more businesses might have been vandalized.
Businesses like JL Beers and Vinyl Taco that were hit with tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage within just a few hours.
We never expected something like this to happen in our town. I mean, to turn into a war zone.
Thorson says as tensions grew throughout the day on May 30th, he and his staff decided to close early for safety purposes, locking everything up just after 5 p.m. Thorson later watching the destruction and looting of his restaurant on his phone via the security cameras.
You know, the front window's broken, bar stools thrown out in the streets, damaged, thrown through the Hodo's windows. Pretty much everything that was up here as far as beer was taken, other than, and there was one can left.
A can Thorson says they've kept and is now displayed on the top shelf. But cleaning up the destruction wouldn't be left up to just Thorson and his staff, as hundreds organized cleanup efforts the very next morning.
You know, it's pretty remarkable. People were scrubbing graffiti off and sweeping up glass and garbage.
Tell me what's happening right now and your reaction.
I can tell you for sure what's going on right now. I have no idea. This morning, we came in good faith as Black Lives Matter protesters, and we peacefully organized our protest this morning. The police were with us. We got full support and cooperation of the police to organize our protest. The Black Lives Matter protest this morning ended at 6:00 p.m. So what's going on right now? No, that's not us. 95% of people I have seen here, they don't belong to Black Lives Matter.
Fargo Police Chief David Zabolski says within the last year, there's been a lot of growth within the community, adding his department has been upping their outreach efforts among various groups in the metro, trying to strengthen relationships with those who don't trust the police or who've had negative experiences with officers.
But I think we've been very successful in the last several months in starting and improving those types of interactions.
Both Zabolski and Johnner say they wouldn't characterize anything done by officers on May 30th as wrong or done poorly, but say there have been many discussions both locally and nationally on how to better plan, prepare, and take action in the event something like this happens again, adding they're more than hopeful for the future in the metro. Bailey Hurley, Valley News Live.
Over 20 people were arrested and charged for their part in last year's riots. Police, court documents, and JL Beer's co-owner Lance Thorson say many of the suspects were identified from their surveillance cameras both inside and outside of the burger shop. Thorson says their camera systems were only upgraded about a month before the protests, saying he's glad that he could help bring justice for the community. Tonight, one person from Mahnomen is recovering after suffering burns over more than 50% of their body. It's believed the individual was filling a vehicle with gas when the bucket they were using exploded. According to police scanner audio, the person had burns on the legs and arms. The individual was transported to Regions Burn Center in St. Paul. Valley News Live has reached out to Mahnomen Police and Fire Departments for more information. We have yet to hear back. And law enforcement responded to a call a little after 5:30 this evening for a collision involving a semi-truck and a vehicle on I-94. The accident took place in the construction zone on the interstate near exit 349. No further details have been released. The Cass County, Minnesota Sheriff's Office arrested 2 people after conducting an ongoing investigation into the sale and use of methamphetamine. Authorities say a warrant was issued for the search of a residence in Kego Township in rural Longville. Following that search, a large amount of suspected liquid and crystal methamphetamine along with marijuana was seized. Several items of stolen property, including a firearm, was also seized. Deputies arrested a 48-year-old man and a 42-year-old woman who were inside the residence at the time. Formal charges relating to drug sales and possession, as well as the possession of stolen property, are still pending for both individuals. 2 people were killed and more than 20 were injured during an early morning shooting outside Northwest Miami-Dade Banquet Hall in Florida. Officials say the shooting took place around 12:30 a.m. at a release party for a local rap artist. Authorities believe it was a targeted attack, saying 3 shooters drove up in a white vehicle and began shooting into the crowd with assault rifles and handguns. At least 1 victim is reportedly in critical condition. No arrests have been made. President Biden returned home to Delaware to deliver Memorial Day remarks. The president made those remarks at an annual Memorial Day service event on the Veterans Memorial Park near Delaware Memorial Bridge. He emphasized his belief the country would always stand behind and take care of service members.
And on my first Memorial Day as Commander-in-Chief, I want to reaffirm my long-standing belief. We may have many obligations as a nation, but we only have one truly sacred obligation, and that's to equip those we send into harm's way with all they need and care for them and their families when they return home and when they don't.
Biden also mentioned a recent phone call he had with the Chinese president about human rights and his upcoming meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Several Memorial Day services are taking place on Monday to honor and remember fallen soldiers. The Fargo VFW and American Legion will be hosting ceremonies throughout the day. The first stop is at Holy Cross Cemetery. The event begins at 8:30 a.m. And up in Grand Forks, a service will be held at Memorial Park South. It begins at 11 a.m. A full list of ceremonies taking place across the valley can be found on our website. Just click on this story. Summer is finally here, which means people may spend more time on the water. While there are memories to make, it's especially important for people to remember to be safe. Valley News Team's Aaron Walling has some safety tips.
It's Memorial Day weekend here in Detroit Lakes, which means more and more people are getting out and about with fishing and boating. I spoke with a conservation officer who wants to remind people about safety.
It's basically just keep your distance from people, pay attention to what's going on. Boats aren't it's not like driving a car where you have your lane of traffic. You could have people coming from 5 or 6 different directions when you're out on the water.
While there is fun and memories to be made in the sun, there are some safety tips that people need to remember to be safe out there. Here is some advice from Becker County Sheriff's Office and the Minnesota DNR. Life jackets on all the time. Drinking and boating do not mix. Check your safety equipment. own the wake, and know the rules. Safety is important to having fun on the waterfront.
For us, it's really nice to see everyone getting back to normal. I mean, it's this time of year, you just get a lot of activity in general. So seeing a lot of first-time boaters get out, get families out. The big thing is patience. Not everyone backs a boat trailer every day. Not everyone launches a boat every day, and not everyone drives a boat every day. So just slow down, take your time, and be patient with people out there.
A reminder to have fun and stay safe during this Memorial Day weekend. In Detroit Lakes, I'm Aaron Walling, Valley News Live.
Later on Valley News Live at 10, House Democrats say there will be a congressional inquiry of the January 6th riot at the Capitol. But first, summer is expecting a hot week with temperatures reaching into the 90s. She'll tell you all about it.